Is MLS growing? Yes. Yes, it is. Is MLS getting better in terms of quality on the field? Yes, absolutely. Of course it is. The infrastructure is also getting better. Now, is MLS doing a good job with youth development? No, I do not believe they're doing a good job there. Is MLS developing enough good American players? The answer to that is also no. And today, I want to do a deep dive into that. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV. And understand, this is not a MLS hate episode. That's not what it is. We want to start a discussion. We want to start a conversation. I think MLS has done a very good job in terms of making the league sustainable, growing it, improving the quality on the field, improving the product, infrastructure, all of that. But the problem is, youth development has not grown at the same rate. And I'm sorry, that's not an opinion. That is factual. Now, before we start this episode, I want to do a little brain exercise here, or at least you do it and comment in the comment section down below. Build a US men's national team starting 11 right now with players that were developed through the MLS youth system. Okay, so that means you'd have to exclude players like Christian Pulisic, Anthony Robinson, Serginho Dest, Johnny, Malik Tillman, Balogun. You have to remove all those players. Build the best starting 11 of USMNT players right now that came out of MLS Academy. That's going to be important throughout the video. Now, for this video, I have a special guest. I'm bringing Gary Kleiben from 343 on YouTube and X. We have a lot of opinions that we agree with and disagree with. Now, I was trying to find someone that straight up disagrees with me in this video, but it's hard to find someone that disagrees with me that wants to come here to the channel. It was very complicated. I also tried to invite Tom Cruise. He rejected my invite for the 50th time. I'm sorry, like Tom just doesn't want to come here, and it might be because I'm taller and better looking. Okay, now make sure to drop a like in this video. I will not be asking during the episode, and leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will be reading every comment. Now, I can't reply to every comment. That takes a lot of time, but I will be reading all of them. Okay, let's roll the intro, bring in Gary, and start the episode. Okay, Gary's back here at the channel. We're going to talk today about U.S. men's national team, MLS youth development. And before we even start, Gary, I'm going to say hi to you. I'm going to be a very nice host, very kind, don't worry. But before we even start, I just want to say one thing. Before anyone says that it's just an episode to hate on the U.S. men's national team, to hate on MLS, it's not quite that. It's actually something that we want to talk about, because for anything to improve, we have to talk about the flaws. And obviously, we'll try to talk about the good things as well. But the whole goal of this conversation is to start a conversation, right? You can't just act like everything is sunshine and rainbows, everything is perfect, because it is not, and there's a lot of problems. And if it was perfect, the United States would be a powerhouse in soccer, because we have everything that you need to become that. But we are not. With that said, before we start, Gary, welcome to the channel. How you doing?
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. I think it's the first time I've ever been on here. I know Brian has been on here in the past, and I've had you. Have you had me on the show before? I don't even recall. Or was it you were on our show?
You're right. I had Brian, but I was on your channel.
That's right. That's right.
You're right.
So it's great. It's great to talk to everybody in your audience. Like I mentioned so many times via X, I think that you are one of the most important people to follow with respect to American soccer, the state of American soccer. You're very straightforward. I consider you an independent, which is something that's very rare nowadays in American soccer. If you're
independent, you're broke.
It's true. And that's why everybody tries to go the other route. So yeah, thanks for having me on. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So I think what started this was I put out this tweet, and there were mixed reactions for it. And I saw that you were interacting with other people in it. I saw some interesting takes, to say the least, from some people, which I'll show here. I saw some good takes from yourself. I saw some very good takes from a lot of my followers, which, by the way, they do have great takes very often. So I thought to myself, let me reach out to Gary, see if he wants to do an episode on this, because there's a lot more we can talk about in an actual video podcast rather than just a tweet. So let me start by reading the tweet. Everyone watching this video can let us know in the comment section what they think, and I'm going to get Gary's reaction to it, and what is his perspective of it. I'll quickly explain what I mean also for anyone who doesn't understand. So I tweeted out this. Um, there was a guy, clearly a New York City FC fan. He put, "Sorry, I was told MLS is the reason why USMNT is bad." Obviously, he's arguing for anyone that doesn't want Berhalter, Roldan in the national team. So they love to put these like stupid takes. I'm sorry, they're stupid takes, right? No one's blaming MLS because there are MLS players I'd love to see in the national team. Bring Messi. He plays in MLS. No one's going to complain about that. The problem is we have bad American players in MLS. So yeah, they'll pull up these stupid takes, and again, I have to just try to put out my opinion. And what I said was the U.S. men's national team is actually the ultimate evidence of MLS's failed youth development. Okay. The fact that we still have to recruit better players that are developed abroad. I'm not talking about recruiting dual nationals. Like Pepe's a dual national. We should recruit dual nationals. What I'm saying is that we rely on players developed abroad. And we'll mention a few names soon. And we're still doing bad, even though we're recruiting these players. Just shows you how much MLS has failed to develop good American players. If anyone disagrees with me, that's fine. You can let me know in the comment section. But Gary, your first take of this, I know you agree with it, but just give your reaction, then we'll go through the comments. Hey, it's me interrupting myself real quick to ask you to drop a like in this video if you haven't already, and to remind you that the NBA playoffs are here on Prize Picks, and that's what I like to play. Also, obviously, I'm following the Lakers. I'm a big Lakers fan, and I love Jokic, but he unfortunately plays for the Denver Nuggets. Now, before we continue, a quick word from the sponsor of this video, Prize Picks. We'll be back very soon. Do not go anywhere. The playoff push is heating up, and the tournament hoops are here. And there's no better way to cash in if you're right on the flying hoops action on Prize Picks. And everything that happens in the game just means a bit more when you're on Prize Picks. And with their brand new Team Picks Market, you can now pick game winners, spreads, and totals on top of the player picks you already know. Team Picks is also available in 35 states right now, including California, Texas, Georgia, Washington, and many others. And you know, if you're on Prize Picks and you have friends over, it just makes the watching experience more fun. But don't worry, they also have a free-to-play mode. Yes, you can play for free with their free-to-play jackpot. Now, download the Prize Picks app today and pick your first game winner, spread, or total as a playoff push rolls on. And then you get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup by using the code CLNS. That is the code CLNS to get $50 in daily fantasy lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, promo code CLNS.
Yeah, there's just so many threads to pull on. It's hard to pick one specific one. Let me just start by saying we have a huge soccer playing population in our country. And you would think that a professional league that has been in existence for 30 years at this point has had a sufficiently long enough runway and academies, since 2007 when the U.S. Soccer Development Academy was created. You would think that we would have pumped out a good number of American developed players that can compete on the international stage, but really, and be better than their predecessors. What I mean by the predecessors is the Eric Winaldas, the Tabare Ramos, the Claudio Reynas, that whole cohort that did exceptionally well in the 2002 World Cup. And we just haven't. Or even we can even talk about Landon Donovan. When Landon Donovan was around in his youth development, there were no MLS academies. He didn't develop in MLS. And yet Landon Donovan and Dempsey and that whole group are among the best we've ever had. Okay. Some might say, oh, Christian Pulisic is better than those guys. Okay, Christian wasn't developed here. We can get into that too, right?
Not
we
by
can say,
MLS. Why don't we just clarify one thing?
Sure.
When me and Gary talked about developed here, we talked about this before, me and him off camera. Most national teams, if you want something sustainable, the core and most players from your roster should be developed through your youth ranks. That doesn't mean just MLS. It can be USL, college soccer, MLS, whatever it is. Christian Pulisic was not MLS, USL, or college soccer. That's not sustainable. He's an anomaly. That's what he means.
Yeah, it's you're supposed to have a good factory at home.
Yes.
Brazil has a great factory. Argentina has a great factory. And people like to point at culture. Okay, culture is part of the factory. So you build a good factory that has the culture, the coaching, the level of competition, all the things that we all talk about 24/7, 365 in American soccer, in the ecosystem here. And we just haven't developed any players. Sincerely speaking, Filippo, who are the starters? Who are the stars of the U.S. men's national team? Can you rattle them off? Because if you rattle them off, they're not products of our factory, except for maybe Tyler Adams.
Yeah, Tyler would be, but if you really go through the U.S. conventional development system, which would be again USL, MLS, or college soccer in this case, Balogun, which might be our best player right now, at least our best forward for sure, nothing to do with us. Our best right back, Serginho Dest, nothing to do with us. Anthony Robinson, nothing to do with any of this development as well, right? Developed in England, Dest in the Netherlands, Balogun, England. Johnny, which I know people are going to say he doesn't perform for the national team. Guys, he's a starter for Atletico in the semifinals. So whether you think he's good enough for the national team, that's not the discussion. He's definitely a very good player. Brazil, in his case, right? Who else can we go?
Tim Weah.
They're going to say he played 1 year there in New York, but let's be honest, not really anything to do that. Weston McKennie was 2 years, I think, or 3 with Dallas, something like that. Good portion of this development, even early ages, was Germany, Weston McKennie. So, yeah, I know the U.S. is a complex one because we talked about this military bases, and they're all Americans. They should play for the national team. But what me and Gary are trying to talk about is why isn't MLS developing so many players that for a dual national developed abroad to play for the U.S., they have to be pretty much as good. Like Balogun would have to be playing for England. And then we're just like, we're so good that if you're not good enough, you're going to have to go play elsewhere. Instead, we usually get players that these players develop abroad. They usually are not good enough for the other national team that is above ours. That's a fact, right? For the most part, with some rare exceptions.
Can we expand really quickly on this thing that we talked before hitting record of these dual nationals that were basically raised abroad and then became full U.S. men's national team players and are basically the stars of the team? If you think about the sheer numbers of dual nationals that were bred abroad, it's a small sample. It's a small number of players. How many players do you think
it's a small number of people in general?
No, and that's what I mean. How many kids were born outside the United States because their dads were in the military or something of this nature? Or
to look that up?
No, but I'm just saying, is it tens of thousands? Just think about the number. Okay, let's say it's 100,000 kids, right?
That's a lot. Yeah.
Okay, but it's actually not a lot because we have like 20 million kids playing soccer in the United States, and out of the 10,000, the core of the U.S. men's national team comes. Why? What's the difference? The difference is that those kids were raised in those soccer environments, and the 20 million were raised in our soccer environment. Guys, it's the environment. That's the issue.
Let me ask you one thing, because before we talk about environment, which we would fall into culture, which people say it takes a while to build culture. Yes, and again, because of the way our soccer pyramid is built, MLS has to do a better job building culture within the cities. We'll address that. But I see this take very often. The league is 30 years old, MLS. It almost folded in 2001. That is 100% irrelevant to what we're talking about, but they love to bring that up. Its first academy started popping in 05, 2007. So now we're looking at maybe 19 years to really thrive as a developing league. Again, it's BS because you can't just pull that up. It's like they could have started the academy from the get-go and they chose not to. They didn't do it. So it's 30 years. Gary, my problem with this excuse is Japan also started the J League around the time MLS started. Soccer is not was not, and still is not the number one sport in Japan. Japan doesn't have one thing that we have, which is like we have this diversity of size, height, athletic ability, and just like different types of players that we can develop. Japan doesn't have that like the US. It's a very homogenous society. That's another advantage for us, by the way, when it comes to any athletics, which is one advantage Brazil has had over many countries over the years. Yet, if you get the domestic, because Japan, I think outside of Kubo, I think every single player that they have, maybe Suzuki, he was developed in Japan too. I think outside of Kubo, they're all developed in Japan. Mitoma, all those guys. So if you get the Japanese developer, remove Kubo from the national team, which I don't even know if he starts because he wasn't starting for a while, and they play the U.S. team with only the players developed in MLS and USL, you'd have to remove Pulisic, you'd have to move Balogun, all these guys. I think we get destroyed. And then the other argument I have is Ecuador. I made a whole video on my other channel, Chappelle, talking about Ecuador. And to my surprise, Ecuador was non-existent in soccer till like the 90s. Non-existent. Never qualified to a World Cup till 2002. Things started to change in the 90s. And could the US knock out Ecuador in the World Cup? Yes. But look at the players they're developing versus who we're developing. And they're actually developing through the Del Valle Academy mostly. Moises Caicedo would be the best American player of all time. William Pacho as well, right? Um, so my question is, when you use the excuse of 30 years, is that even valid?
It's not valid. There's so many, again, threads that can be pulled on here. 30 years is a very long time, honestly speaking. You have more than ample time to identify the talent at an early age and then have multiple cycles go through your quote unquote system and come out the other side. And they have done that. And we've seen what comes out the other side. What's very curious is looking at it from the other end, Filippo, and that is England has had over a century, okay, of playing soccer, and it is deeply ingrained in the culture, phenomenal culture, best league in the world, all this. And what have they pumped out? What are their top players? How are they performed in World Cups? It's not great. They're not like the top 8 countries. You might see on the FIFA rankings, oh, 4th ranked or 5th ranked or 7th ranked. Come World Cup time, what happens to them?
Well, not just World Cup. They never won a Euros either.
Or a Euro or, yeah, any of these sorts of competitions. So this whole idea that you need 50 years, 75 years, 100 years, how many countries across the globe have had 100 years and it just doesn't happen? And if you want to look at England, because everybody looks at England here in the United States, Mexico too, but everybody looks at England here. Everybody looks at the Premier League. They have the best league, the best money, most infrastructure, most everything. They're terrible. Yes, they have the occasional Wayne Rooney and Jude Bellingham, and they've had great players come through. But as a whole, they are not the global powerhouse that they should be, given this excuse of 30 years of development is not long enough. Oh, I'll add one more thing. Can I add one more thing?
Of course.
How do you explain the women being successful then?
In the United States?
Sure.
Well, I think there's a multitude of reasons here. I think that women's soccer culture in the United States is very strong. There is a clear development path through the college system, right, which works. And I think it also is fair to say that I think the US would be like a pioneer in that sport specifically, right? We've been good from the get-go. We have seen countries catch up, and clearly right now it's much tougher than ever for the United States. And we even saw that with poor leadership, poor coaching, the U.S. women's did struggle, right, until they got Emma Hayes and it came back. But I think that would be the reasoning for the women's.
Well, let's pull on it a little bit more because, again, I'm trying to connect it to this. We've only had 30 years of development for the men. The rest of the world in women's soccer, they didn't give a shit about women's soccer. And I'm sorry, can I say shit in this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I say worse things, yeah.
They didn't give a crap about women in the rest of the world, and they still relatively don't. Okay, but in the short period of time when they actually threw them a couple of shekels, couple pennies in the women's direction, look what's happened. The rest of the world has closed the gap with the United States tremendously in much shorter period of time than 30 years.
True.
Just something for people to consider, so maybe it's something other than time that is important.
Yeah. It's not, and I think I just want to say it again. I think 30 years is not a lot. It is a lot of time, right? If someone came up and said, dude, MLS is like 3 years old, what are you expecting? And it's like, yeah, 3 years old. 30 years, you can get 3 different generations right there of soccer players, like youth players coming up, right? Because usually the academy age will start U13s, and then you go to you. So you can get like 3 to 4 generations there. That's enough. Especially when obviously before MLS was around, you pointed out to the team of 02, there were already players popping around, right? The United States. We had a professional, we had a team with competent players that made it to a quarterfinals in the World Cup. And one can argue they were one handball away from making it to the semifinals. That team. I talked about this before, like these past teams, it felt like they despite lacking talent, which we always talked about, it felt like they were always in the games. It was just a different team. While in the 2022 World Cup, this current generation that we have that may or may not be more talented, probably more talented, whatever that means, because the world also got better. When we played the Dutch, for example, I never felt like we were in that game. It never felt that way to me. While even in 2014 against Belgium, we were getting hammered, but it still felt like we had a shot, right?
Yeah.
Till the very, it still felt like there was something. Against the Dutch, we weren't getting hammered, but it never felt like we were really in it. It's felt like whenever the Dutch wanted, they would press us a bit, get a goal. And then when we scored a goal, we're like, oh, 2-1, we have a shot. They went there and they scored again. But let me bring this up because Paul, I like his Twitter account. I don't know what you think of Paul's account, Paul Spacey. I like his account. And then he pointed one thing out that was interesting. It looked like he did some of his coaching licenses here in the US recently. He didn't seem to enjoy it very much. I'm not going to get into details because that's not important. And then he said this, and he said US players look exactly like the licensee system that developed them. Prescriptive, functional, and academic. Article coming tomorrow. He did write a nice article about it. And guys, make sure to go follow him, Paul. It's a great account. I found that take interesting, and I want to know what your thoughts on it because you're much more into that than myself. I do have thoughts on it, but I want to hear yours first.
Yeah. They're very the people who first off, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but we have a monopoly that's running the show here in American soccer. And so as a consequence of that, everybody thinks the same way. And if you don't think the way that the monopoly wants you to think, you're not going to be involved. And that goes for the coaching education as well. So you have to kind of align with a particular way of thinking, which is very organizational. So coach needs to be extremely organized from the perspective of, oh, wow, you gave us a PowerPoint presentation. You're a good coach. And it happens like that in the licensing. It happens like that. If you ever go to these coaching conventions, or if you ever listen to like a US soccer, anything regarding US soccer, very formal, very stoic. And that is the culture that they are deploying to the next generation of coaches.
Sounds like Berhalter. Yeah.
It's didn't Berhalter, wasn't there a big article written about him giving a PowerPoint presentation, and US soccer was blown away by the PowerPoint presentation? And then when he got rehired by Crocker, it's more than just Crocker responsible for this. Another topic. It's all like, oh, we looked at the data, and the data suggested that Berhalter is what is going on here? They want to be objective, Filippo. There is no such thing. They don't believe in the subjective. They don't believe in the eye test. They don't believe in these sorts of things, which is why if you look at, I know you're Brazilian, if you put Cristiano Ronaldo and Neymar side by side for me, completely different players, I pick Neymar is my guy. And everybody's going to throw at me all kinds of statistics. The Americans will throw statistics at you. So that is my gut reaction to what you just posted regarding the US soccer coaching licenses. They are creating robot coaches, or trying to, who will create robot players.
Yeah, I think that the problem with the whole thing of monopolizing the entire system is that you don't allow the talent, and by talent I mean not just players, I mean even coaches, because being able to see and scout a kid and see the talent is there, right? That is a talent of its own. Some guys are able to look at a player and just know that's a kid, because sometimes the kid is smaller and then he's not able to really shine. But you see it, you're like, the way he reads the game, the way he moves, the way he kicks the ball, the way he dribbles, the decision making, there's something there. This kid won't be able to win me games right now, but I can have him on the bench and I can help develop this specific kid. And I'm not even talking about like win now mentality versus development. That's not even relevant for this discussion, because you do need also winning mentality to go up the ranks. You do need to win games in youth systems, but sometimes that player won't help you win there, but you have him on the bench because you understand that he's a late bloomer. He's a kid. That is a talent of its own. But when you have something that is very methodical and you have to follow these guidelines and this is how we want it done and this is how we want it played, you're kind of like messing with creativity, which this sport, soccer is a very instinctive sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like football that there is instinct, of course, in any sport, but football, you stop every play, you set up the team, and the quarterback knows exactly where he needs to throw, and the runner knows. Soccer is very instinctive and chaotic. It's a chaotic sport. And we've seen Pep talk about this and many other coaches where it's like, guys, you guys think I'm playing a video game here. Once the game starts, it's very hard to control what's going on. So since it's instinctive, you need the players to be developed in like environments that allow them to flourish. And I think that when you put all of that, the way the licenses work and how coaches and if you think outside of that, you are out of their club. They don't want you there. And these are issues I see. And then another problem that I see with it as well is that in America, we seem to love badges, right? Marketing. So, for example, here in Orlando, if you play in the Orlando City Academy, you're at the top of the top. People don't even care if it's the coach. He must know what he's doing. And then let me ask you one thing. What are the alternatives, right? There could be better options, but we have one professional club, one in a city like Orlando. You're going to say Orlando's not as big as LA or big, but just guys, Orlando still is a big city. And we have one professional club in Orlando. How many do we have in Florida? We have the Rowdies, Orlando City, Miami FC, Inter Miami, Naples FC. But then you also go to USL, which again, some like the Rowdies doesn't even have an academy. So academies in Florida, we have two academies with a pathway to professional soccer. And that is something that needs to be fixed, but they don't want to fix it, right? And then when we go back to talking about why MLS is not doing a good job developing players, I don't think we have enough academies in this country. It's such a big country. You have what, like the 30 MLS academies that can cover the entire country. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of politics that go into it. And I want to bring up one thing here, and I'm kind of just going all over the place. Talked about, I want to bring this one up here. And I'm going to bring a tweet from Pete.
Well,
you know Pete.
Can I inject here, because I think something is very important related to what you mentioned. Everybody in the ecosystem here is always talking about the symptoms and the problems, but nobody seems to always frame it the right way, Filippo. If you don't frame things the right way, you're spinning your wheels forever. The framing is as follows: MLS does not care about developing players. They don't care. They don't care. Why not? Because you have to understand the MLS business model. That's why. The MLS business model, it's a monopoly. It owns the first division of soccer in this country. And people invest in it, become owners, franchise owners, because they are billionaires and they need a place to park their money, Filippo. So they have options in parking their money. Do they buy the S&P 500? Do they buy fine art? Do they buy real estate that they'll never live in, but at least it protects you from
MLS
inflation?
is real estate too, by the way.
Sure. But you have all these options. Common people don't understand. They don't have a Chase account or a Bank of America account or a Wells Fargo account with $3 billion in there, okay? They have to buy assets to protect themselves from inflation, from the debasement of the dollar, of the currency, because we print money. So what you have all these options at your disposal. One phenomenal option is buying a professional sports team, specifically here in the United States, because there's no promotion and relegation. You have an eternal monopoly. The asset will appreciate no matter what, because it's scarce. You can suck competitively. The sport does not matter, Filippo. The asset will appreciate, and historically, if you do the math, it is the best, perhaps the best investment you can make to park your money. So, do they care about developing a soccer player for their first team? They don't really fucking care. It doesn't matter to them. If they develop a player and sell him for $5 million, what is $5 million when somebody's net worth is $5 billion? It's 1 over 1,000. Do the math.
You get 5 million when you
no. But I understand. But understand that is like me finding pocket change in my couch cushions. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. It is not being hyperbolic. That is not the rationale for MLS's existence. It is a place for the wealthy to park their money and have it appreciate over time. The sport does not matter. So we can spin our wheels about MLS should do this. They should go to the FIFA calendar. They should
the Libertadores. I don't know what that would change, but
they could export more players. They should make more alliances with USL clubs. None of it matters, Filippo. So it's fine. We can take it for what it is and talk about what would improve things, and hypothetically, fine, but let's understand that we're talking about putting band-aids on symptoms.
I think I want to actually, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but let's dive into this because what you said is important. MLS is in the business of franchises. And well, if you want actually soccer to be run properly in the country, you need a business of soccer clubs. There's a difference between a soccer club and a soccer franchise. Soccer franchise is what Gary just described. A soccer club operates as a soccer club. Bad results have consequences. You have to find that fine balance between profit and building a competitive team to stay in the first division, to win the first division, to qualify to the Champions League or the Libertadores. You have to find the balance between that. Or if you can pull debt to pay for something and make money next, whatever it is, sell players to stay afloat. So you get a big variation of clubs. Some clubs are known as developing clubs, where they will try to develop players good enough to keep them in the first division, sell for 20 million, 30 million, and that's enough revenue to keep them afloat that season, and then they keep going. So big variation, different clubs, different models. MLS, because it's all franchises, they all have the same model, right? It doesn't change. And then people are going to say, what the heck? You guys are just, you guys are just like pro rel merchants, and what the hell does promotion relegation have to do with youth development? It has everything to do with it. Everything. If you have an open pyramid, you will have more professional clubs with access to the first division. You will have these clubs that I just talked about called development clubs that'll just try to scout local players, develop local players, sell them, and not just that, develop them to be good enough to go up the ranks and make money going up. It's just many different variations of how it can go. But right now, like you mentioned, MLS also, you need to be a billionaire to be an MLS. You can't get an investor willing to put 30 million to start a small club and move up the ranks. I see a lot of guys investing in like UPSL clubs, and they put some money. They don't put more money because what else are you going to do? You can't go up, so it doesn't matter. But I'm pretty sure if they could go up, they could put another 2 million right there. Or here in Florida, okay? I'm not even talking about anywhere else. In Orlando, I see this. I see players talking. I know this for a fact. There are players here in Orlando that each UPSL game they play, they get paid $100. And you're like, that's not a lot of money. Well, how? But again, it's UPSL. There's no money in it. It's like you're getting paid just because someone is willing to bleed money for that. Okay. And people are going to talk about, you two idiots. Why would MLS implement promotion relegation? You're right. They wouldn't, and they won't. They don't have to. MLS, I don't have that much beef with MLS because they're doing what they're supposed to do. My beef is with US soccer because we talk about this, and not even going to get into politics or any of that, but just in the United States in general, you have the government, right, that again enforces taxation, regulations. They try to regulate so we don't have monopolies, so we don't have this and that. And then you have the corporations. If you're a corporation, you have to look for profit, business, grow. And then it's up to the government or whoever regulates that to kind of like, hey, this is illegal. You can't do this. You can do that. This is okay. This is not. So US soccer is the one that has to enforce promotion relegation, with MLS not being its own entity. They're part of the pyramid. Everyone has access through promotion relegation, and you open that up. So garbage teams in MLS, like you said, that don't want to invest, don't want to do anything, they're just there to park their money. Those teams die in a pyramid like that, and I am fine with that. Eventually,
or they sell it. That owner's like, this isn't for me. They sell it to somebody else. Somebody else will buy it. Oil money will buy it. Multi-billionaires will buy it. Somebody will buy it.
Ryan Reynolds might buy it. Ryan Reynolds.
It's not just going to die, right? And the lower divisions, they're like, oh, Gary Filippo, tell me that, FC Naples of USL League One, like, how are they going to afford all this? Guys, why are you thinking like everything is fixed in time, fixed in place as it is? If opportunity was open to you, either that existing owner of that third or second division club will open his wallet more because he wants to go up, or more likely, massive investment will inflow from other people who want a piece of that club, or that owner will sell it to somebody else. All of this cascades down to youth development. Why? Because if you're in the third division, you don't have necessarily the money, and it doesn't make business sense to go out and purchase your players. You have to develop what you have in your neighborhood. You have to first identify as best you can, which means you have to hire the best scouts you can possibly find, So you have a meritocracy in scouting also. The best you have in your neighborhood, bring them into the fold, then hire the best possible coaches that you can find. Again, a meritocracy, not a buddy-buddy system at all, to develop them so that hopefully they'll make your first team, and hopefully that will strengthen your first team to get promoted. Or you sell that player to MLS or USL Championship or overseas. It's all about an open ecosystem, Filippo. I don't know why people in this country have such a difficult time. Actually, I do know, but that's another story. Difficult time with understanding, comprehending what an open market is and what a closed market is, and what are the pros and cons of both. The United States is the global superpower because we have had freedom, opportunity, and a meritocracy. We were escaping from England, the tyranny of the crown of England. And over here, people can just do whatever the hell you want to do. Laissez-faire economics, build products and services. If people want them, great. If they don't want them, fine also. And we built this huge empire, man. Compare us to the Soviets, compare us to North Korea, compare us to so many of the other countries across the globe who have a closed, controlled, centrally planned economy. They can't compete. So that's why we can't compete in youth development. That's why we can't compete in soccer in this country versus the others.
Because we don't compete.
Because we don't compete. There is no competition here. There is no. I don't know if you're aware of this, Filippo. Because I don't know your whole backstory with regards to being in the youth system. Before MLS Next came around, that ruined everything. Okay, it was the U.S. Soccer Development Academy. Before the U.S. Soccer Development Academy,
the DA.
Yeah, before then, it was promotion and relegation leagues all across the land. It was warfare, constant competition, warfare. That's where Landon Donovan got bred. That's where Dempsey got bred. That's where that whole crew, Eric Winalda, Tabarera, all of them got bred in that cauldron of competition. Then the Development Academy got established and they centralized, no more promotion relegation, gatekeepers. They picked and choose who gets in and who doesn't get in. And then that eliminates competition, because if you're last place, second to last place, it doesn't fucking matter. Who cares? I don't have to go out and find the best kids in the land anymore. I'm not going to get relegated out of the U15 or U17 bracket. I'm in the Development Academy. I can do whatever I want as a club. I have this badge and I can recruit whoever I want. I don't have to work for it. MLS Next came around, even worse. If you go watch youth games now, Filippo, versus what it was like back then, it is not competitive. It is a country club. It is the softest thing I've ever seen.
No, I followed. They also have some here in Orlando from time to time with MLS academies, and I think it's usually at the Oasis Hotel that has multiple soccer fields near like Davenport Champions Gate in Orlando. They have it very often, every year at least, and they've had also in Disney Wide World Sports here as well. I think that one thing that people don't understand when you were talking about is like, I don't understand how people can't get it. It's that we're not telling MLS to implement promotion relegation. We're telling US Soccer to implement it. Of course, MLS will not implement it. Of course, their owners will not do it. They're not going to do it. And then they're saying, how do you force them to do it? It's like, well, very simple. If you don't abide by the rules here of the pyramid, we're removing the sanction of Division One. And what's going to happen is all of your players in your league, they're not eligible to play FIFA tournaments. What's going to happen? Messi's gone. He's like, bye. And not just him, so all of them, right? They're all gone. So MLS would abide by it. Now, of course, because the mess is so big, if they were to do this, there would have to be some transition period. It's like, hey, not now, 3 years we'll start it, blah, blah, and go and move forward. I'm okay with that. I understand. You can't just do it like this and just completely destroy. Give the guys opportunities like, okay, I need to get my act together. Let me fix this club. Let me actually invest. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying do it now and next year we're doing, but put out a plan to do it. It's not going to happen right now because, again, MLS controls the federation. But
it's not complicated, right? Because people say, oh, you guys all talk about what's the solution. It's actually not complicated. You can give them a 10-year runway. I don't care. Say, hey, MLS, everybody in the ecosystem, you have a 10-year runway. In
10 years? That's not enough, Gary. We got 30 and that's not enough. In
2036, we, the federation, are opening up the pyramid. We're opening it up. Everybody, do what you want, mobilize as you will. So if an MLS franchise owner doesn't like that, doesn't want to be a part of that,
You can
they
sell.
can sell it. They can just sell it. And if they want to be a part of it, great. They maneuver themselves and re-architect how they're going to operate. It's
Mhm.
not that complicated, and you're not screwing anybody over. The MLS owners who bought in for 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, $300 million for their franchise, they can sell their franchise for more than what they bought in. You're not screwing the owners
Yeah.
over.
Also, but yeah, okay. If they lose money,
And that too.
okay. Like
And that
people
too.
lose money, like we all do. Like it's not like I feel bad for this guy because he lost. So, sure, you might have made a bad investment because the environment of markets change, right? Some people might have had invested on Blockbuster, and then
Yeah.
streaming came along, and you lost money.
It's
It
really
happened.
weird. It's really
It
weird,
happened.
Filippo. It's really weird that so many people want to protect the billionaires when in their other life, their non-soccer life, they're super anti-billionaire. They want to tax the
Yeah,
rich and like screw over Elon Musk
but
and Jeff
not the
Bezos
MLS
is
owners.
this and this. But when it comes to MLS and their billionaireism, no, oh, it's all good. We got to protect. They invested so much money. We need to protect them. What?
Bro, they can still sell it. Most of them will sell it for a big profit if they want to leave. Most
If
of
they
them.
want to leave.
Yeah, if they want to leave. It's also it's just we've talked about that portion of. I want to bring one thing up that I
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
seeing,
yeah.
and I just want to say I'm not especially Pete, right? Pete's a friend of mine. I'm not bashing anyone that I'm putting the tweets up here. I want to put these tweets up because I want to talk about the thing we keep hearing of the future is bright. It's a great way to create an illusion for people, right? Saying the future is bright. And I know that because I grew up here for most of my life, but for example, my grandfather, he was Brazilian. He already passed away, but he used to say one thing to me a lot that it was more of a joke because they always say in Brazil that Brazil is the country of the future. And my grandfather would joke to me about that. He's been hearing that since he was my age. That's when I was a kid. He's like, I'm 70 right now. I've been hearing it since your age. And I was 10, 12 at the time, something like that. And what I found out from that is like, oh, so they just say that to Brazilians so they can keep the country the mess. And listen, I'm going to say it, the country for the most part is a mess. Okay. If you guys want to say you can't, I've lived there before. Okay. And I have family there. Brazil is a beautiful country with great people, but it's a mess on purpose by design. And they love to say that it's the country of the future because it keeps everyone under that illusion of hope. It's going to get better. It's bright. Right now, it's tough, Gary, but it's going to get better. Don't worry, it's going to get better. And then it doesn't. But then it's too late. 10 years went by. Who cares what you think? So there's this thing with US soccer where, of course, occasionally we'll develop players here and there, one here, one there, one Christian Pulisic, a McKennie comes up. That happens. A Tyler Adams, right? A player that is not like a world class player, but a player that goes to the Premier League and is competent, right? He looks like he belongs. And then I saw this, like, for example, Pete put out this tweet. The three MLS clubs or franchises or teams, whatever you want to call it, that are primarily responsible for playing teenagers this season are San Diego, New York Red Bulls, and RSL. When all 30 clubs are doing this, the game changes completely. I agree that them playing players obviously helps over the long run, but if you don't fix the youth issues, it doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why. I'm looking at these players. I have watched most of them. I have watched Julian Hall quite a bit. I have watched Adri Mahimeri. That's actually a good player, in my opinion. I've watched Matthew Dos Santos quite a bit. Xavier Gozo, I've watched him a bit. Luca Moisa, I've watched him. Bombino, I've seen him a few times. Duran Farid, I've watched him. Pedro Soma, I've watched for a few years, actually. He was with the Barcelona Academy before. They're not bad players, these ones that I'm talking about. And I want to word this correctly because I don't want people to think I'm shitting on prospects. They are actually good prospects, but you have to develop many and many Adri Mehmetis, many and many Julian Halls for one or two to pan out. I would not be surprised if in this list that Pete put of players with potential, one or two play for like at best play for mid-table top 5 league teams. One or two. Maybe one, maybe none. Maybe none. And that's where I pick on where the future's bright. The future's bright. Guys, countries like Switzerland have loads of players playing in top 5 leagues and doing well. Are they like the Spanish players, the French players, the Brazilian? No, they're not. But they're all playing for good teams, like teams that, like for example, Gio Reyna can't play for. For example, they're all playing for those teams. And when I look at this list of players, and again, I could be wrong, I would say I don't know how much you've watched these guys. I've watched them quite a bit. I would say one or two might make it to a top 5 league and play for mid table. I think Mehmeti, in my opinion, is one of those that has good potential there. Xavier Gozo is another one, especially because he has a lot of the athletic ability and 1v1 ability, the size. Outside of that, like even people are gonna hype Julian Hall. He's scoring this season. I don't think he's a top 5 league player. I don't think he'll develop to that. Because even like Ricardo Pepi, for example, right? He's struggled in top 5 leagues, and we're about to find out his level. We haven't found out Pepe. Haji Wright, another player that does very well for us, he's playing in the second division. He didn't do well in the Bundesliga when he was younger. He went to Turkey, and then now we're about to find out because Haji will get promoted to the Premier League. Sargent couldn't play in the Premier League, for example. So when they talk about the future is bright, if you want to have players doing well in top 5 leagues and having a competitive team where our floor is not so much lower than our ceiling, because it's crazy. The gap between Balogun and Pulisic to our best play, our worst players in the roster is huge. It shouldn't be that bad. You need a list of these players that I have here of an extra like 30 names like that. What is your reaction to what I said and to the tweet in general? Again, we're not shitting on Pete. He's just reporting on what's happening. I'm just talking about the names.
Yeah. Look, I've been watching MLS since 1996. Okay. I was a kid, 1996, went to the Rose Bowl, watched the Galaxy, watched
Man,
Andrew.
you're getting old, Gary.
Yeah, I am. Watched Andrew Shue, who was on this, popular TV show, who was signed by the LA Galaxy, marketing stunt. So much of the league is all about marketing. And I've been hearing this story since 1996. Okay. And as the years go by, obviously your eye gets more and more, you become more wise, right? The future is bright. It's been saying, like you said, in your country of Brazil, forever. Guys, until the underlying issue is resolved, it's hard for the future to truly be bright. I think you are 100% correct. Maybe one of these guys, two of these guys end up being starters for the U.S. men's national team one day. Who knows? Maybe they're in the top 5 leagues. Who knows? Maybe none, like you said. If all 30 franchises were playing the young kids over and over and over again, would that make a difference? No. And I'll tell you why. Because you might have more players on the level of these guys, but you're not going to create magical players. They're all going to be mid players. Does that make sense? Like, more numbers doesn't mean you're going to create magic.
Well, I think that in the professional level, yes. I think that at the youth level, the first thing you have to raise is not the ceiling, but the floor, because that raises the competitiveness, right? At the youth level. We focus too much on raising the ceiling of like the top prospects, but the first thing we have to raise at the youth ranks would be the floor, because that would just push everyone up.
We just need an overall meritocracy, Filippo, because these guys who got played, that this gentleman is pointing out here, somebody kept them in to the academy and said, you're good enough, versus somebody else, you're not good enough. Somebody also kept them in to giving them first team minutes. Maybe if it would have been another manager, they're like, nah, you're not good enough, Goso. You're not playing. Right. And maybe Michael Bradley comes in. He's like, because he's knowledgeable. He's played everywhere. He's like, hey, this 17-year-old kid, he can play. And you know what, Filippo? The 16, 17, 18-year-olds were capable of playing the past 30 years in MLS, but they were never played. Before 2019, I'm sure you were tuned in, there was hashtag play the kids, because no kids would ever get played. None. Zero is impossible. You're dead. You sign a homegrown contract, you are dead in the water. Career over. Then in 2018, 2019, about 24 players did not sign homegrown contracts and they went overseas. What did the league do? They reacted. All of a sudden, they started playing the kids. All of a sudden, they started accepting offers from Europe to transfer some kids over. Then things got a little bit better. But now you see, the kids that were always good. The kids were never the problem, man.
And
These guys are not going to turn into global superstars. I'll tell you right now. And I'll eat crow if I'm wrong.
well, yeah, for this one specifically here, like for example, USMNT will talk again. I'm not even pulling the tweets to bash any of these
Sure,
accounts.
sure, sure.
It's more specifically to show real examples. So, Jude Terry scored a beautiful goal for LAFC. I saw it. Julian Hall got 2 assists on the tweet that he's mentioned. He also scored again now in the US Open Cup, I think a brace while we're recording this. Andre Mehmeti scored in MLS. Mehmeti, I think, is a very, at least player profile wise, from what I've seen, there's something there. Um, I would love, and then there's obviously future looking bright for the
They have to
USMNT.
leave. They have to leave, Filippo, sooner rather than later.
Yes, that as well. But the thing that catches me is like the future is looking bright. And what has changed me so much about this was I think the last time I really, really, really fell for this was the current generation. Because when I go back to 2020 and 2021, we were seeing, I'm just going to talk, it's not even MLS developed players for the most part, but anyhow, we had Des going to Barcelona. Pulisic had signed with Chelsea and actually was off to a hot start until he had that horrible hamstring injury. Weston McKennie had arrived in Juventus and he was scoring in the Champions League right away. Tyler Adams scored a goal in the Champions League semifinals for Leipzig. A-Rob was finally starting to emerge, right? Because when he had that bad friendly against Brazil, I think, yeah, against Brazil, everyone's saying he sucks because he sucked against Brazil and he was emerging. Just a lot of the good things were happening. Yunus
Musa was killing it at Valencia.
Musa was
freaking Julian Araujo got transferred to FC Barcelona, was training with Messi and all those guys. You kidding me?
That was later, but just overall point was like the future was bright. And I was looking into that. Pepe was starting to emerge and score in MLS. I was like, oh my God, we have so many options here. And I was looking towards not even the 2022 World Cup. I was looking at 2026 and I was saying, 2022, we have to build something. 2026, guys, at home, these players, the future is bright. We might actually be able to make a semifinals run here, but if the stars align, fast forward to today, anything can happen in the World Cup, and we've seen crazy things happen. So maybe we make it to a semifinal. Who knows? Right? I doubt it, but you never know. But the future hasn't become bright with this generation. Actually, it's a generation where a lot of fans have come to terms that they're at their ceiling right now of who they are. Somewhat unlikable to a certain extent. Some players have fallen off a cliff, like Gio Reyna, Yunus Musa. Some guys haven't fallen off the cliff, but they never really became what we expected. I'm even going to say, even Christian Pulisic, he didn't really become what we expected. He's a good player, but there was a point where Pulisic was the Eden Hazard replacement. And honestly, maybe without injuries, we would have had a different version of Pulisic. But anyhow, Pulisic's not even a topic for this video. It's just that the future's looking bright. And then you see like these players, Jude Terry, Julian Hall, and Andre Mehmeti. I don't know if we're going to be around covering the sport in 10 years or so, but I'd love to go back to this tweet 10 years from now and see what happened, right? And even when we talk about players like Kevin Sullivan and all that, I just don't see that generational talent. I see a player that has potential to be a decent player in the top 5 league. There's something there. I see one American player nowadays that I think there's legitimate talent with this guy, and it could be something. It's Mathis Albert, but he's with Dortmund. He's with the Dortmund. He was with the U19s. He was with the Galaxy at one point. U19s. There's something there. The problem with when we talk about MLS development, because then the MLS guys are going to come up. He was with the Galaxy Academy. They'll say something like that, and I'm like, fine. Even if you give them credit for Mathis Albert, that is one player. And again, he could flop. That's one player. If you want to have a world-class player or you want to have a generational talent, you need to be developing 10 Mathis Alberts, 10 Christian Pulisics, because one will reach that potential, not 10. Right? Yeah. We put all of our eggs always in one basket. Like, here's Freddie Adu, the Pele that's coming up right now. And then that basket full of eggs falls, breaks, doesn't work out. Josie, and then Pulisic, and then which Pulisic, to be fair, he has had a great career. That's the point. It's like, I don't think when people say that MLS is doing a great job, I don't think they are. I don't think they're developing enough American players. I do not think that. And if they were, we would barely have players develop abroad. We would have one or two, a few here and there, but our roster would be 20 to 24 players out of the 26 developed here. And then just to close things from my end, and I'll give you the mic to close because I talk too much. When people say you guys talk about the problems and don't offer solutions, then we talked about like opening the pyramid and all that. And like, so what's the solution? Just open the pyramid? Yes, because essentially what I think Gary was talking about and what I believe is once you open it, it's not going to fix in the first year. What happens is we're believing that this merit-based system, this open pyramid, what we are in America about free competition, eventually it'll fix itself. It might take 10 years, right? We need a whole generation to come up. It'll take 10 years or 15 years, not 30. 30 is too much. We don't need 30 years for that. But you eventually, yes, opening it up and allowing it to be free competition would fix itself. As crazy as that may sound to people that they think they need to control everything, not controlling it is what will enable it. And
Yeah.
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's what I believe in.
That's how the cream actually rises to the top. That's how it happens, Filippo, not with gatekeepers. I'll close with this, my man. Look, I think part of the problem with the future is bright is that the main demographic here that is loud on social media, who is part of the MLS demographic, who is the main part of the US men's national team fan base, they haven't seen enough. So me being from Argentina, you from Brazilian heritage, we have had countless players from those countries go to Europe, and it's not a big deal. You see, out of the hundreds or thousands of Argentinians that go to Europe, it's only maybe 10, 12, 15 that become global superpowers. The rest are like Pulisic or like McKinney or like Tyler Adams, or like they're just like scattered all across Europe, and they're starters on their teams, and many of them play Champions League, but they're not even on the national team. So we have seen that, we have lived that forever, and the hype cycles that exist in those countries is not like it is over here, because here we haven't seen it that much. So here the demographics like, oh wow, we have a 17-year-old who's a starter on Dortmund. Oh my God, this is fucking amazing, right? So they get super high on Pulisic. When in Argentina, I've experienced that with countless players. And Brazilians have encountered that countless times. Oh, wow, McKinney, look, he's on Juventus, the world power. Not to mention that Serie A is not what it used to be, and Juventus is not what it used to be. Never mind all that. But great, we fart players who go to Juventus in Argentina and Brazil. So we don't get as excited. The Americans get super excited and overhype the player. I think that's part of the issue. And then the other thing, finally, which I don't know if you want to add to this, but I kind of have to get going here, is how much credit do leagues actually get to take, right? Because it takes a lot for a player to develop into something special. First and foremost, himself, the player themselves. Secondly, the family. Thirdly, the coach, the training that he's getting. Fourthly, could be, yes, the club that he's at. Fifthly, maybe the league. And then finally, there's the federation who kind of regulates and sets the rules of engagement for the entire ecosystem. So you've got all these things kind of contributing for the better or for the worse of a player's development. So when MLS comes out and says, we developed this guy or that guy, he's our product, bullshit. You are just a little slice of the whole puzzle.
Yeah, but I do want to say that there's one part of the puzzle as well, which MLS can control, because since they gatekeep everything, is culture. If they're going to gatekeep, for example, the city of Orlando with Orlando City, that team has to build a culture. And I live here. I'm sorry, they're not building crap, right? I'm talking about this one. I can't talk about other cities. I'm only going to speak of my own experience. They are not building anything. All right, everyone, that's all for today. Hopefully this discussion just gets you guys talking about it. We just want people to talk about the subject. It's not all doom and gloom. We're just talking about issues that hopefully fix over the next.
And we care. We actually care.
Yeah, too much, actually. Yeah. That might be the biggest issue. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to go check out Gary's channel. I'll put it in the description, but the handle's right there next to his name, 343. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.